the Galactic Defense Academy, floated like a shining jewel in the orbit of Orion 5. Its massive glass domes reflected the distant stars, and the hum of energy shields gave the station a quiet pulse. Cadets from countless worlds had come here to learn, each eager to prove their strength. Among them, a single human named Jason Hale walked with quiet determination. His boots clanging softly on the metal walkways, Jason was young but solidly built, with sharp blue eyes that seemed to notice everything. Unlike the other cadets, he did not talk much. He did not boast, but he watched, listened, and thought. In a school filled with confident aliens some twice his height, some covered in thick scales, some with eyes that could pierce the shadows, Jason's quiet presence stood out. Today, the cadets were gathered in the main training hall. At the center was a giant simulation arena, a massive dome that could recreate any battlefield. The floor was patterned with energy grids that could shift and change to test a warrior's skill. Hovering above it, a projection glimmered in pale light. Commander Valek, the instructor, stood tall on the observation platform. His skin was a deep shade of green, and his eyes were cold and sharp. Every cadet felt the weight of his gaze. Today, Valek began, his voice echoing in the hall. You will face a challenge unlike any you have seen. The Iron Scale Beast. The words were enough to silence the hall. The Iron Scale Beast was a legend. Stories of its power were told in cadet dormitories as warnings and awe-inspiring tales. It was a simulation, yes, but it was designed to mimic the impossible. It's an enemy that could shrug off any known weapon. Valek's long fingers traced the air, summoning an image of the creature on the arena floor. It was enormous, easily the size of a small building with dark armored scales glinting under the hall lights. Its four legs ended in spiked claws, and a thick tail lashed back and forth like a living whip. Mechanical eyes glowed red, scanning the room with an eerie intelligence. No weapon in the academy has ever stopped this target, Valek said, his tone sharp, almost proud in its warning. Many have tried. All have failed. You may defend yourselves, but understand this: attacking it is useless. The cadets looked at each other, some nodding, some shaking slightly with nervousness. Their hands hovered over their weapons, as if to find courage there. Most aliens had large plasma rifles or energy blades, and they flexed them instinctively. Humans rarely trained with advanced energy weapons in their small home worlds. But Jason's people were known for ingenuity and adaptability. He glanced at the simulator, then at the command platform, and quietly said, "We'll see." The first demonstration began. The beast appeared in the arena with a low rumble that shook the floor. Drones were released to test its power, and instantly, chaos erupted. The drones fired their blasters, and their shots bounced off the beast's thick armor like pebbles hitting a mountain. The creature lashed out with its tail, sending drones flying. Its claws smashed barriers, and the energy grids flickered under the shock. Every move it made seemed unstoppable. The cadets watched, some frozen, some gripping their weapons tighter. Jason, however, stayed calm. He noticed something others did not. Small pauses between its steps. Tiny sparks when its claws hit the floor. Slight shifts in weight as it moved. Others saw only an invincible monster. Jason saw a pattern. After the demonstration, Valek's voice boomed again. Remember this lesson. You may defend yourselves. You may hide. You may run. But you will never stop it. Cadets were sent to practice formations, learning defensive strategies, learning how to avoid damage, how to predict its attacks. Jason followed, but his mind worked differently. He did not think of running. He thought of stopping it. Jason said, a tall alien cadet named Rin. With pale blue skin and multiple eyes, why do you even try? The commander said, it cannot be stopped. Do you want to die? Jason looked at him calmly. I don't want to die. I want to try. Rin blinked. On their world, humans were known to be stubborn, but few believed they were brave. Jason's quiet confidence unsettled him. You'll get yourself punished, Rin warned. Maybe, Jason replied simply. But I need to see if it can be done. The next simulation began. Cadets were paired in groups. Their task was to distract the beast, draw it into defensive traps, and survive. Jason was alone. The arena expanded, walls shifting to form rocky terrain. Energy barriers rose in jagged patterns. The beast appeared, larger than before, and advanced steadily. Most cadets screamed, fired their weapons blindly, and ran. The beast moved faster than predicted, catching drones and dashing past barriers. It smashed energy walls with a swing of its tail. Cadets fell back, injured or terrified, and the instructors shook their heads. Jason moved quietly through the rocks, observing. He noticed its left foreleg carried more weight. Its armor seemed denser near the chest, but thinner near the joints. Its sensors flashed at certain angles when it turned its head. He marked the weak spots in his mind. Most cadets would only see strength. He saw opportunity. After the session, Velik's voice echoed over the arena. Again, cadets. Focus on defense. The lesson is survival, not attack. Jason lingered in the arena while others left. He studied the beast's simulated patterns, watching for flaws. Hours passed. He tested small equipment sensors, old training rifles, and energy stabilizers. He made notes, adjusted his stance, thought. "Why are you still here?" Rin asked, coming back quietly. Jason didn't look up. "I need to see it closer. I need to understand it," Rin sighed. "Humans were strange, always pushing limits. Do you really think you can do what no one else has?" Jason finally looked at him. "I don't know. But if I don't try, I'll never find out." The next day, the final demonstration was scheduled. Velek gathered the cadets again. "Today, you will observe. You will not touch weapons." His eyes lingered on Jason, as if sensing something unusual. Jason simply nodded. The beast entered the arena again. The cadets fell into defensive positions. Most weapons fired automatically, forming walls of light and energy. The beast moved with terrifying precision, avoiding, smashing, and crushing. Each time it passed a cadet, they could feel the vibration in their bones. Jason watched, noting every flick of its tail, every step, every movement of its armored plates. Others were paralyzed by fear. Jason was calm, calculating. He could already imagine a way to hit it where it would stumble. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His mind worked faster than the machines, faster than the simulation, faster than anyone else. Finally, the beast charged at the energy wall that the other cadets had set. Jason saw its moment, just a fraction of a second, when it shifted weight to strike. He made a mental note. No one else would notice. When the session ended, Velek looked around. "You may leave," paused and added, almost casually. "Remember, nothing can stop it." Jason left with the others, but his mind was elsewhere. He knew he could stop it. Not with brute strength, not with big weapons, but with precision, strategy, and careful timing. He did not tell anyone his plan yet. It was too early. He had to prepare. That night, in the dormitory, Jason worked quietly. He studied the armory schematics. He planned a new approach, a small, precise weapon that could exploit the weaknesses he had observed. He gathered spare parts, an old kinetic launcher, extra stabilizers, and a compact power cell. It was crude compared to Academy weapons, but it was smart. Rin came by. "Jason, are you really doing this?" Jason didn't look up. "I have to. I need to see if it can be done. And I think it can." Rin shook his head. Humans were strange creatures. Brave, stubborn, impossible to predict. But he stayed. "I'll watch," he said. "But don't get caught." Jason smiled faintly. "I won't. One chance is all I need." As the night passed, Jason worked, studied, and prepared. The Academy slept, unaware that a single human cadet was about to challenge the legend of the iron-scale beast, a challenge no alien had dared to attempt. Tomorrow, the arena would change. The rules would be broken, and Jason Hale, quiet, calm, and determined, would face the impossible. The next morning, the training arena buzzed with energy. Cadets gathered, their faces a mix of curiosity, fear, and anticipation. Whispers spread quickly through the ranks. Everyone knew that Jason Hale, the quiet human, had been preparing something. Some were skeptical. Some were worried. And a few, like Rin, were genuinely curious to see what he would do. Commander VLX stood high on the observation platform, his green-scaled arms folded across his chest. His sharp eyes scanned the cadets and finally rested on Jason. "Human," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "Remember my warning. This target cannot be stopped." Jason nodded respectfully. "I understand, sir." Velek raised a brow but said nothing more. The cadets took their positions. The arena transformed, rocky terrain, rising walls, narrow corridors, and open plains. The simulation was designed to test strategy, agility, and endurance. And at the center of it all, the iron-scale beast waited, its red eyes glowing, its claws scraping the ground, tail lashing back and forth like a whip. Jason carried his improvised weapon carefully. It was small compared to the Academy's massive rifles, but it was precise. Its compact launcher had a series of adjustments, and the power cell was tuned for controlled bursts rather than raw force. He had spent hours tweaking it, studying the weak points he had observed. "Stay back," shouted one of the alien cadets as the simulation began. Drones were released first, testing the cadets' defense. They fired blindly, but the beast ignored them, crushing the drones effortlessly. Its armored body shimmered as it moved, and every cadet realized how truly impossible it was. Jason didn't panic. He stepped forward quietly, scanning the beast as it advanced. He noticed its left foreleg shifting weight, the slight pause before it swung its tail, and the faint glow of energy vents along its joints. His plan had been simple. Do not attack the armor, attack the weaknesses. The other cadets moved in defensive formations. The alien warriors fired plasma beams, energy blasts, and guided projectiles. But the beast shrugged them off, barely slowing. It smashed a wall with its tail, sending debris flying. Some cadets scrambled to safety, while others froze in shock. Jason stayed calm. He moved low and fast, keeping to the shadows of the arena walls. When the beast turned, he observed its movements carefully. Every attack it made had a rhythm. Every swing, every step, every lunge could be predicted if you watched closely enough. And Jason had watched closely for days. "Jason," Rin whispered from a distance, "don't get too close." Jason glanced at him but said nothing. He had one chance. One precise shot. He adjusted the launcher, aligning it with a small energy vent near the beast's left foreleg. The vent glowed faintly as the beast shifted its weight. He fired. The projectile shot forward, small but fast, and struck the vent perfectly. Sparks flew. The beast staggered, its steps faltering for the first time in the simulation. The other cadets gasped. A murmur ran through the arena. The impossible had just been disturbed, the beast roared. A sound designed to shake the ground and intimidate all who faced it. It turned its massive head, seeking the source of the attack. Jason stayed calm, moving quickly to adjust his aim again. Velek's eyes narrowed. He had never expected a human to actually hit a weak spot. The other cadets watched in awe. Some began to realize that Jason might not just be lucky. He had strategy, patience, and precision. The beast swung its tail in a wide arc. Jason dodged just in time, rolling to the side. The ground quaked where the tail struck, throwing debris everywhere. A few cadets fell, but Jason stayed focused. The beast's armor had many weak points, but they were small and precise. One wrong move, and the attack could fail. Jason fired again, this time at a joint near the beast's front claw. Sparks erupted as the projectile hit perfectly, jamming its movement for a moment. The beast staggered backward, clawing at the floor. Cadets could hardly believe their eyes. "Impossible," one of them whispered. Jason didn't smile. He kept moving, keeping the beast in sight, keeping the weak spots in mind. He fired again and again, targeting the small vents and joints that the other cadets ignored. Each strike did not destroy the beast, but it disrupted its rhythm. Its steps became slower, less confident. Its tail swung erratically. Velik's expression shifted from disbelief to cautious interest. He had trained countless cadets. He had taught them every tactic in the academy. And yet here was a human, small, unarmed compared to the academy's best soldiers. Controlling the simulation through precision and careful planning, the beast's red eyes locked onto Jason. It charged, its massive feet pounding the energy grids, sending vibrations through the floor. Jason dove to the side as it slammed into a wall. He rolled, firing one last precise shot at the main joint near its hind leg. Sparks and smoke erupted as the joint jammed completely. The beast stumbled, staggered, and finally, with a mighty crash, collapsed to the arena floor. For a moment, the hall was silent. Cadets stared at the fallen beast. Drones hovered uselessly around it. Velik stood motionless, his sharp eyes wide. No one had ever stopped the iron-scaled beast. And now, a human had done it. Jason lowered his weapon and stood, breathing steadily. He didn't celebrate. He simply observed the beast, confirming it would not move again. Rin ran forward, eyes wide. "You did it. You actually did it." Jason nodded. "It's not about strength," he said simply. "It's about knowing where to strike and staying calm." Velik stepped down from the observation platform. He walked slowly toward Jason, his usual stern expression softened with thought. "Human, you have done something none of our best cadets could. You have stopped the iron-scaled beast." Jason saluted. "Thank you, sir. I just watched closely and looked for weak spots." Ick steadied him. "Most species rely on power. They rely on weapons or size. You relied on strategy, observation, and courage. That is rare, even among humans." The other cadets whispered to each other, some in awe, some in disbelief. Many had trained for years and had never come close to defeating the beast. And now, a single human had done what they could not. The instructor gestured to the cadets. "Let this lesson be clear. Bravery, intelligence, and observation can overcome even the strongest enemy. Strength alone is not enough." Jason felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Rin. "I've never seen anything like that," he said. "You didn't just win. You changed how we all see combat." Jason smiled faintly. "We all see it differently. You just need to look carefully." Word of Jason's victory spread quickly through the academy. Cadets came to watch him in practice, asking questions and learning from his approach. He did not boast. He simply shared what he had observed and taught how to think strategically. Velik, meanwhile, returned to his office, thoughtful. He had believed in the rules and limitations of the academy. And yet, this human had broken them, not with strength, but with patience, focus, and clever thinking. Perhaps the academy itself needed to change. By the end of the day, the arena was quiet. Jason cleaned his weapon and returned it to the armory. He did not feel pride or arrogance. He simply felt satisfied that he had tested the impossible and succeeded. That night, Jason and Rin walked across the observation decks of the academy. "Looking at the stars, do you think anyone will ever believe this could happen again?" Rin asked. Jason shook his head. "Maybe not, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what we can do if we don't accept limits. Impossible is just a word, not a rule." Rin smiled. "You're strange. Human. Brave, smart, and strange. But maybe that's what we need around here." Jason nodded quietly, looking at the distant planets. Tomorrow, training would continue. New simulations, new challenges. But something had already changed. Cadets no longer feared the idea of impossible. They had seen what determination, observation, and courage could achieve. And Jason Hale, the quiet human cadet, had shown them all that even the greatest obstacles could be overcome. If one dared to think differently and act boldly, the iron-scaled beast lay defeated. But the real victory was not over a machine, it was over fear, doubt, and the idea that some things were beyond reach. Jason walked back to the dormitory, already thinking about the next challenge, already planning how he could keep testing limits He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing: humans would never accept impossible as the final answer. The morning after the simulation, the Academy was buzzing more than ever. Word of Jason Hale's victory over the iron-scale beast had spread quickly. Cadets whispered in corridors, instructors discussed it in hushed tones, and even the Council of Trainers seemed to have taken notice. Jason walked through the main training hall, his posture calm, his blue eyes observing everything. He had already learned that victory alone was not enough. Knowledge, preparation, and the ability to teach others were just as important. The other cadets looked at him with a mix of curiosity, awe, and a little envy. Rin fell into step beside him. "I can't believe what you did yesterday," he said. "Even now, it doesn't feel real. You actually stopped the iron-scale beast." Jason shrugged lightly. "It's not magic. You just need to watch carefully, think carefully, and act when the time is right." Rin laughed. "Humans are strange. You don't just fight, you study, you plan, and then you win. I've never seen anything like it." The two of them entered the observation deck, looking down at the arena. The iron-scaled beast still lay where it had fallen, a defeated symbol of what had seemed impossible. Cadets were watching simulations of their own, learning from the pattern Jason had uncovered. The instructors had already begun analyzing the data from his actions. Commander Vahelic arrived shortly after. He walked slowly across the deck, his usual stern expression softened by thought. He stopped beside Jason and gestured toward the arena. "You have done something remarkable, human," he said. "No cadet before you has stopped the iron-scale beast, not even once. And yet, you have done it twice, in practice and in simulation. You did not rely on strength alone. You used your mind, your observation, and your courage. That is rare among all species here." Jason saluted respectfully. "Thank you, sir. I only tried to look for the weak points." Vahelic nodded. "Most cadets focus on their weapons, on energy, on armor. You focus on thought, strategy, and timing. That is why you succeeded. You see possibilities where others see limits." The words filled Jason with quiet satisfaction, but he remained humble. For him, the victory was not about fame. It was about proving that careful thinking and courage could overcome what others called impossible. Vahelic turned to the other cadets, who had gathered nearby. "Let this be a lesson for all of you. Do not believe that anything is impossible. Strength and weapons are important, but observation, strategy, and courage can change the outcome of any battle." A few cadets hesitated, unsure if they could apply this lesson. But others, inspired by Jason, began to discuss strategies, ideas, and techniques. The atmosphere in the academy was changing. Fear was giving way to curiosity. Doubt was giving way to possibility. Later that day, Jason returned to the armory. He carefully disassembled his improvised weapon, cleaning each part and inspecting every component. Even though he had succeeded, he knew he could always improve. Perfection, after all, was a journey, not a destination. Rin entered, looking excited. "You're amazing, Jason. You didn't just win. You've changed how we think about combat. I've never seen anyone human or alien plan and execute like that before." Jason smiled faintly. "It's simple if you understand the enemy. Watch, wait, and strike at the right moment. That's all it takes." Rin shook his head. "It's not simple. It's genius." As they spoke, the Academy's instructors convened a special meeting. They reviewed the simulation data and Jason's actions in detail. Vahelic was present, along with several other senior trainers. The conclusion was clear. A human cadet had done what they believed no one could. The Academy's training methods, designed for conventional combat, had overlooked creativity and observation as decisive tools. After the meeting, Vahelic called Jason to his office. The room was filled with holographic displays of the beast, simulations, and data points. Vahelic leaned over a table, studying the movements Jason had exploited. "You have something special?" Vahelic said. "Humans are adaptable, yes, but you possess something else: insight, patience, and courage combined. Most cadets rely on what they see. You rely on what you understand. That is why you succeed where others fail. Jason listened quietly. Thank you, sir. I just tried to think carefully. The Helic nodded slowly. I am going to ask you to help redesign part of the Academy's combat program. Your methods, your approach, can teach all cadets how to think differently. You may be small in size, but your influence will be large. Jason felt a mix of pride and responsibility. I will do my best. In the following weeks, Jason began working with instructors and cadets to design new training programs. They focused on observation, strategy, and precision rather than raw power. Simulations were adjusted to allow students to find weaknesses, analyze patterns, and plan attacks carefully. The Iron Scale Beast became a symbol not of fear, but of possibility. Cadets from all species began to study Jason's methods. Some were skeptical at first, unwilling to abandon what they had learned for decades. Others quickly saw the value. Slowly, the Academy's culture began to change. Students started to challenge the impossible, testing strategies and daring maneuvers they would never have considered before. Rin became Jason's closest ally during this time. I have never seen anyone think like you, he said one day as they watched cadets practice. Humans are strange, but maybe strange is what we need. You don't just fight, you teach us how to see the battlefield differently. I just want everyone to see what's possible. If one human can change the outcome, then anyone can. Even Commander Velek seemed transformed by the experience. He observed Jason not as a student, but as a teacher, as a strategist. He began to question old rules, old limitations, and old assumptions. He realized that the Academy's greatest weapon might not be its advanced technology or its strongest cadets, but the creativity and courage of a single human who refused to accept impossible. As weeks turned into months, Jason's influence spread beyond the Academy. Cadets who trained under his guidance performed better in simulations. They were faster to identify weaknesses, more precise in their attacks, and more confident in their abilities. Even in practice battles, where failure was expected, humans and aliens alike began to attempt strategies they had never dared before. The Iron Scale Beast, once the symbol of invincibility, now lay in the arena as a lesson in observation and courage. Students lined up to study it, to test their skills against it, and to learn from Jason's approach. The impossible had been defeated not through strength alone, but through thinking, planning, and daring to try. One evening, Jason and Rin stood on the observation deck, looking at the arena below. The last of the cadets were leaving, discussing the day's lessons. Do you realize what you've done? Rin asked quietly. You didn't just beat the Iron Scale Beast, you've changed the Academy forever. Students will never see impossible the same way again. Jason watched the simulation floor. I didn't do it alone, he said. The beast was strong, but we can always find a way if we think carefully. I just showed one way. Others will find their own. Rin smiled. Even so, humans are amazing. I never would have thought a small human could change so much. Jason shrugged. It's not about size. It's about seeing what others cannot and daring to act. Velek appeared at the edge of the deck, watching them. For a moment, the stern commander allowed a faint smile. You have proven something vital, human. The Academy will never forget it. And neither will I. Jason nodded. Thank you, sir. That is enough. The stars twinkled through the transparent walls of the observation deck. The galaxy seemed quiet, yet full of possibilities. And Jason Hale, the human cadet who dared to challenge the impossible, knew that this was only the beginning. One challenge had been met, one lesson had been taught, and countless more awaited. As the Academy settled for the night, cadets dreamed of new strategies, new victories, and the realization that the word impossible could no longer hold the power it once did. And somewhere in the quiet halls, Jason walked steadily. Already planning, already thinking, already daring to see what others could not. The Iron Scale Beast had been stopped. But more importantly, fear and doubt had been stopped as well. And for the first time in the history of the Galactic Defense Academy, the impossible was no longer the limit.